Good day to everyone, whether you're in the West or the East or just downtown in Europe. This is the 14th edition of the European Language Industry Survey results webinar, which is being broadcast courtesy of the European Commission as a Translating Europe workshop. Thank you everyone who's registered. And thank you in advance to all our panelists and presenters. Some housekeeping points. We have interpreters in the background. We have a Spanish, German, French, and Italian channel. If you look along the bottom of your screen, you'll see a globe icon which says interpreting or interpretation. If you click on that, you can select which channel you wish to listen to. If you prefer to have subtitles, there's also a subtitles icon. Click on that. We are going to hear the main results presented shortly after the opening words, which are going to be delivered once again, I'm very pleased to say, by Christos Elenides, Director General for Translation at the European Commission. Over to you, Christos.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. I hope I'm okay on screen and the audio is coming through. Good afternoon. Okay, good. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. From my side, on behalf of the European Commission and the Directorate General of Translation, known as DGT, I would like to welcome you to the presentation of the results of the 14th European Language Industry Survey, or otherwise known as ELIS, 2026. Before we look at the results in detail, I would first like to extend my real, sincere thanks to all the language industry associations and organizations whose support made this survey and today's event possible. And in no particular order, I start with the European Union of Associations of Translation Companies, the European Language Industry Association, the European Regional Center of the International Federation of Translators, the Globalization and Localization Association, the European Commission's Language Industry Expert Group, LIND, Women in Localization, and of course, the European Commission Masters in Translation Network, EMT, and particularly big thanks to all the EMT students that contributed to the preparatory work of the survey. Many thanks, of course, also go to our panel members, Marta, Diego, Alison, Deborah, Maria Jesus, Hannah Marie, and Sidi. And of course, to Ruby from the European Union of Associations of Translation Companies, who we'll listen to in a bit. Let's not forget our moderators, Inkalisa and Jeffrey, thank you both. And of course, we should not forget, I think Jeffrey already mentioned it, our young and brilliant EMT network students who are providing interpretation from English into French, German, Italian, and Spanish as we speak. A big thank you to you too. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in turbulent times. The recent developments in Europe and in the Middle East are reshaping the geopolitical landscape and redefining long-standing alliances. Last month marked the 4th anniversary of the start of Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. And more recently, conflicts in Gaza and Iran have spread to the wider region, affecting many countries and people, including my own country, Cyprus. Every day, we are confronted with a relentless news cycle that seems to bring one crisis after another. It feels worrying, even overwhelming at times. And this broader sense of instability and negativity is something that affects the language industry as well, just like any other sector in our global, but also local economies. Data from this year's ELIS survey show that investment mood and freelance sustainability are at an all-time low. Language companies and language departments both report staff reductions and expect even more budget cuts. The number of language providers is also expected to decline. Teachers continue to report that the number of new students drops. This data continue the trend that we saw in last year's survey. What is perhaps even of more concern is the decline in both activity levels and overall satisfaction across the sector. This is the second year in a row that responses to the survey are down as well. It is clear that we need new ways to turn the trend around and reach those missing respondents, especially people under 30. We need to investigate new ways of receiving information. This might involve a combination of survey panels or biannual rather than annual surveys as we have it now. This is things that we will be thinking in the days to come. But even under these circumstances, we must continue to adapt if we want to survive in an ever-changing world. The results of the ELIS survey show that this is exactly what the sector is doing. As always, the language industry is demonstrating its capacity to adapt to change and its resilience. Across the industry, organizations are embracing the opportunities offered by new technologies. Students continue to be broadly satisfied with their choice of training programs, languages, and areas of specialization. And language companies are increasingly recognizing that changing purchasing practices and business models require them to rethink and adapt. Here at Digity 2, we are constantly reviewing our business model. And we're developing strategies and technological products to address fundamental changes in markets and adjust our services to respond to the needs of our clients and users. Technological developments continue to drive our organization. In February, we launched e-reporting, our latest AI-based language service designed to reduce the burden of reporting obligations for stakeholders all over Europe. E-reporting actually can identify all the reporting steps an organization that receives funding from the EU needs to follow, saving them a lot of time. Users like public administrations, small businesses, NGOs, academia, universities, and Digital Europe projects will be able to generate activity reports and map their reporting obligations. They can also generate an activity report by dragging and dropping up to 10 relevant documents. But put simply, we should all be looking for greater efficiency and economy through simplification as we are living and experiencing these new and evolving circumstances. The AI service I mentioned, e-reporting, joins our suite of services, which includes e-briefing, e-summary, e-translation, e-reply, and they make smart use of AI to free up staff time and capacity for other things for the staff, non-routine tasks, both within the Commission and outside.
Dentro y fuera de la Comisión. Una ventaja enorme de este servicio multilingüe es la seguridad. Los datos se manejan en línea con las reglas de protección de datos de la Unión Europea y no se usa para entrenar modelos comerciales. Todos estos servicios son gratuitos para los usuarios idóneos. Estamos en los últimos pasos de entrenar.
As part of our contribution to modernize European administrations and strengthen the EU technological sovereignty. By leveraging the high-quality multilingual data produced by all the EU institutions, together with the European high-performance computing, supercomputing infrastructure. This is a joint venture that deploys supercomputers to be used in Europe by citizens and stakeholders, businesses, universities. DGT is building on a European open source model to deliver a large language model that actually reflects the EU linguistic diversity, something that many LLMs, as they exist right now in the market, are not doing. We're already seeing improvements in the model's performance across all EU official languages, with a special and particularly significant gains for the smaller official languages, for which there is far less data available online. These innovations are built over 30 years of collecting high-quality linguistic data. We are collaborating with public administrations and organizations across the European Union to continually improve and expand our services. By working together and sharing linguistic resources, we can ensure that no one is left behind in Europe's journey towards digital and technological sovereignty. And in today's unpredictable world, this is an increasingly urgent goal to strive for. Another major change in our business model is our strategic shift towards editing services. So AI services, LLM, of course, translation, but now we're shifting also towards editing services, diversifying our portfolio of products based, as I said before, on customer needs. Last year, this shift brought to us an increase of 43% in our production for editing compared to the previous year. This was made possible by DGT proactively reaching out to commission policy departments to offer editing support for major files. In fact, last year, editing accounted for a larger share of our English department workload than actually translation. To meet this growing demand, our English department increased its editing capacity in 2025, last year, by training and upskilling, reskilling translators to perform editing tasks. In my opinion, this multi-mode set of core skills and professional profiles is becoming the new normal and is likely irreversible. Language professionals must be multi-mode and must be able to deliver services accompanied by a collection of core skills together with soft skills. The data show that DGT is on the right track in increasing the focus on editing, and with greater capacity, we will be able to edit more documents on political priorities with shorter deadlines.
Davantage de documents relatifs aux priorités politiques dans des délais courts. Et nous explorons par ailleurs le potentiel offert par la technologie pour renforcer nos capacités de révision. Toutefois, la DGT n'est pas à l'abri des tendances qui touchent l'ensemble de l'industrie des langues. À l'instar de l'ensemble de l'industrie, nous avons constaté une baisse des...
As a result, and over time, and as colleagues are retiring or leaving our service, the size of our language units is shrinking, and the average age of our staff continues to rise. As technology evolves and the demand for services change, the skills translators bring at the start of their careers, we are discovering may no longer be sufficient just a few years later. That is why lifelong learning has become one of our top priorities. In this rapidly changing world, we do not want anyone to be left behind. Courses and training on innovative technologies are taking center stage helping us equip our staff with the digital skills and other soft skills they need today. In this context, in all of this context, people must still remain at the heart of DGT, and they do still remain at the heart of DGT. I said many times in many interventions I made over the last few years, our number one asset has been and will always be our staff, whatever their job title is. Although demand for editing has increased, DGT's overall translation production still remains high. In fact, in 2025, DGT produced more than 2.5 million pages of translation, which is an increase of nearly 9% compared to 2024. So what do I conclude from all these facts and data? Well, that there is a constant need to review our business models, adjust to our customer demands, embrace technological innovations, be open to change, and reprofile our staff. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that you have all heard the saying, change is the only constant in life. And understanding change in the language industry means understanding that new technologies are here to stay. There is no going back to the old way of doing things. Burying our heads in the sand is not an option. Observing changes around us from the sidelines is not an option either. Instead, we need to do what we have always done in times of change in this industry. Embrace the change and make it work for us. With that in mind, let us look forward with determination, ready to face challenges head-on, open to innovation and willing to see technological advancements as opportunities rather than challenges and obstacles. In short, the challenge of independent language professionals, language service companies, and public sector language providers, just like DGT, is to harness this change, harness this innovation and the new technologies, and make the most of the extraordinary new opportunities that these present. One thing is certain, however, much our tools evolve, and whatever changes AI or any other technology brings, the elements which real people bring to the table will continue to be essential. As language professionals, translators, editors, terminologists, multilingual project managers, and language technologists, you have precious talents and much needed skills. You are highly skilled at critical thinking, critical analysis, thoughtful language, empathy, curiosity, and of course, digital literacy. You have been harnessing it and managing it for years. Your professionalism, creativity, and talent, in short, your humanity, give added value to everything that you do. Let me conclude by saying that the ELIS survey remains a genuine pan-European, cross-industry collaborative initiative. It is a chance for us to take time out from our daily schedule, busy daily schedule, and talk about industry trends and challenges, but also potential opportunities. And this year's survey is no exception. It gives us plenty of food for thought, ideas, and also concerns that deserve joint reflection and action. And what better place to start than today's webinar? I hope it will kickstart a set of actions and joint initiatives to prepare our industry for the times ahead. There is a lot we can still do together. Thank you for listening to me. And I now look forward to the presentation, as I am sure many of you, of the results of ELIS 2026. Back to you, Jeffrey.
Thank you so much, Christos. Inspiring words as usual. A couple of
Encore une
housekeeping.
fois, ça a été super, très intéressant. Merci beaucoup.
A couple of housekeeping announcements before
Alors,
I hand
quelques
over
informations.
to Rudy. After the main presentations from Rudy, Alexandra, and also John. There will be a short intervention from the president of
Alors, il y
the
aura une petite
EUATC,
intervention de Rudy,
Marta Ago, and
de
then
Martha
we will
également.
open up the panel.
Ensuite, nous commencerons la discussion.
And that's enough for me. I'm hearing the French interpreters in my hearing device, which is quite interesting. I'm going to hand over straight away to Rudy. So the last thing to say is anyone who wants attendance certificates, email the info at or general secretary at euatc.org.uk, .org. That's it. And over to you, Rudy.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, we'll now start with the results themselves. Starting first with the some figures and some charts, after which we will go into the individual industry segments. Now, there's going to be. I'm not going to talk about this about the participation. Let's dive directly into the market evolution. Christos already mentioned it. This is not a good year, especially not for the small and medium-sized traditional language service providers, both language companies and language professionals, the independent language professionals. We see it all over the board. One remark, you don't need to bother taking screenshots or something like that. This presentation and the report will be available on the ELIS website for you to download them after the webinar. So we see the activity going down. We see global market estimates going down. We see pricing going down. The language departments and the teachers still see some growth in the global market, which is also reported by external research companies like Nimdzi and Slater. There is a difference there between the results of
Il y a une différence entre les résultats des entreprises, des secondes.
Gathers mainly results from small and medium-sized language companies and independent professionals, while the others focus more on the larger companies.
Les autres, quant à eux, se concentraient surtout sur les plus grandes entreprises, mais aussi sur les initiatives liées à la technologie qu'on a vu vraiment fleurir ces dernières années. Il y a aujourd'hui beaucoup plus d'optimisme quant à l'état du marché mondial. Ça a également été confirmé par l'entreprise Transperfect, une des très grandes entreprises de la langue. Pour la première fois dans leur existence, ils ont rapporté que les services de traduction, les services linguistiques représentent maintenant moins de 50% de leurs revenus. Donc plus de 50% est généré par d'autres éléments, d'autres services que les services linguistiques traditionnels. Évidemment, c'est inquiétant pour les entreprises petites et moyennes, plus traditionnelles. Et c'est quelque chose que ces entreprises vont devoir prendre en compte pour leur avenir.
How are they going to react to this evolution? Now we see quite some responses indicating that, for instance, independent professionals want to leave the profession, the freelance profession at least. Much more than what you would expect in a normal retirement scheme, but not more than last year. We are at This year we are at, let me check again, 17%. 17% of the independent professionals are indicating that they want to leave the profession. Now, this is considering leaving. Unfortunately, we do not have any information about how many are actually leaving the profession. That is very difficult to ascertain, but at least it gives us an indication. Among the language companies, that percentage is much smaller. We're only looking at 3-4%. Which doesn't seem much, but it is indicative because for an owner of a language company, it's much more difficult to end that activity. He's responsible or she's responsible for employees. There's capital involved and so on. And today is not a good moment to sell. We all know that. So that explains why the percentage is so low. Now, obviously, there's not only negative intentions. There's quite some good intentions to turn the business around by developing new activities, by focusing on different client types, different contents, different domains, for instance. More among the language professionals than among the language companies, I must say. But still, there's a lot of interest there. But interest does not mean that it turns into action. We do not see a lot of real change in the answers, except maybe a slight increase in the direct client ratio, which is one of the action types that has been coming back every year over the last couple of years. But now we do see an increase of 8%, if I'm not mistaken, on direct client ratio. You will find all the details, obviously, in the report. So that's encouraging, but for the rest, we don't see that much difference. One important thing to mention is also that only 11% of the language companies have indicated that they have a strong technology focus. Although the whole disruption right now is driven by technology, which may explain why it is also difficult to turn the business around. That is logical. If you're looking at the language departments, you see the same, more of the same. We do not notice much difference in outsourcing behavior. We do not notice much difference in types of activities, types of services that they're doing. Obviously, there is AI, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But overall, there's not that much of movement. Maybe one small exception is a slight increase in outsourcing consolidation, but the number of answers there are too low to be absolutely sure about that evolution. Also, let's not forget that outsourcing percentages and outsourcing behavior depends very much on the organization type. This year, the outsourcing percentages varied between 19% and 76%, depending on the organization type. So this is really very wide difference, which makes it very difficult to draw any conclusions there. When we look at employment, Christos already mentioned it. The situation is not really positive there. Students like a language career. That's obvious from their answers. Wherever they can find that in any type of employer, although there seems to be a slight preference for language companies, but even also the freelance activity is definitely also considered, as long as it is language position. And unfortunately, the declining staffing levels, also the situation in the freelance community is not very positive for this type of career. So starting a career in the language industry today is challenging. I would say you need a lot of motivation. But once you're in, it is a sticky industry. It has always been. It still is. People remain in the industry because they like working in the industry. And although there is a slight decrease in satisfaction levels, especially on the income level, people still are quite satisfied to be in the language industry. Now, this year we also looked at a few specific things like inclusion, gender equality. Uh, that there we see a kind of a mixed picture because on the one hand, the language industry remains an industry with really a strong female bias, with a lot of women in the industry at all levels, in all segments. And people have also responded that employers, the inclusion and the diversity position of employers are very important for their employer choice. But on the other hand, we also see that there is a slight but continuous change in the leadership, in the ownership of language companies towards more male majority. So 4 years ago, we had a clear majority of female owners participating in ELIS, and now there's a slight male majority. Also for the DEI programs, so diversity programs, we noticed that this is very well organized and present in the language departments, especially in the international organizations. But it's virtually inexistent among language companies, the participating language companies, I should say, which may be due to the small average size of those companies, which makes it very difficult to them. They lack resources to support such more complex programs. And obviously, we need to tackle the elephant in the room, not a cute little Dumbo, but an angry bull, let's say. AI, MT, virtually all of the participants have identified that as the main reason for the disruption and for the problems that they're encountering. And obviously they are right. This technology is, and especially the machine translation application of AI, because obviously you can use AI for a lot of other things, but here we're talking about the MT application that is affecting all the segments. Now, we've been looking at three things in ELIS about AI. Obviously, the actual use, that is one thing. Second, we've been looking at discounts from post-editing. And third, we've been looking at quality expectations. Now, for the use, in the past, we've always asked people to just estimate the percentage of usage of projects on which they were using machine translation or AI. That did not give us very good results, very precise results. Now we are combining it also with pre-translation estimates. And that gives a more nuanced picture where there are big differences in pre-translation behavior between different types of organizations within language departments. For instance, they are normally more inclined to use pre-translation for their in-house work than for the outsourced work volume, while in the language companies is exactly the opposite. So that is one thing. Second, when we look at the independent professionals, the freelance translators, who are basically the ones that define the actual use of MT, because they are the last link in the chain, we see that we are reaching a total volume of or ratio of MT use, AI MT use, of more than 60% this year. Equally divided between pre-translation work that they receive from their clients and that they are requested to post-edit, and a use on their own initiative. Simply because at that moment they see that for certain types of projects they are better off if they are using MT or AI as well. When we're looking at the post-editing discounts, fortunately, those catastrophic discounts that we sometimes see in posts on social media, we don't encounter them here in the ELIS results. Instead, we have a range from some 19, I believe. Let me check again here. What was it? 13% reported by the independent professionals on average, going up to 29% reported by language companies as an average discount that they negotiate with their external post editors. So that's the range that we get on the ELIS data. The third element in this section is the quality expectations, and there we see something very interesting. If you ask a language company or an independent language professional what their clients want, the vast majority is saying that that the client wants human translation quality, even if it is post-edited. But if you ask the question to the language departments, the situation is much more nuanced. We have 44% of them who do indeed say that they expect human translation quality, but more than 30% concedes that they expect that it will be a little bit lower. And it's even more interesting if you're looking at the opinions of the language companies. When you ask them, okay, on the one hand, what does the client expect, and what do you expect to deliver to the client, and what do you expect the outsource, the post editor to deliver to you? There are huge differences. You see that here in the chart left bottom, where this from the post editor they're expecting 40% are expecting that this will be lower. So that is an interesting thing to keep in mind. Now, the problem obviously is that post editing quality is not defined anywhere. Even the ISO standard for post editing is focusing only on the process. and keeps away from a definition of quality. That doesn't make it easier, obviously. But it is important to keep that in mind, especially because it leads to misunderstandings and it leads to conflicts in the relationship between client and provider. Finally, here, one word about raw machine translation quality, because we are asking always how that is evolving. Strangely enough, this year, people are more critical about the raw machine translation quality that they receive than in previous years. I don't expect this to be because the MT quality or the AI quality is now lower than before, but it indicates that we're getting used to it, and that we're getting used to incremental improvements, and therefore that we're simply getting more critical about it. So these are a few slides about what main results on the common parts. Please download the report when it's available on the website. And there's a little bit less than 50 pages of it, so there's a lot of details in there. And now we'll move to the sections for the individual segments. We'll start with language departments. I already mentioned it. Language departments, it's more of the same. The same challenges, the same activities. Challenges meaning workload, restriction in budget, restrictions in staff, and so on. So we don't see much difference there. The big difference is that AI is rewriting completely the way that they need to do business. And although they need to do the same, they do see a lot of impacts. Much more, I have the impression from the answers than the language companies themselves, in the sense that rather than they have the same workload, but the workload changes. A lot of internal departments that are their clients or that used to be their clients are now using AI themselves and ask them to review, to edit, or whatever. Instead of doing a complete translation, they do see the benefits. They acknowledge the benefits, especially to make their work easier, to increase their productivity. But they also see the side effects, the negative side effects, both short term and long term. Short term, it's mainly about the same things that language professionals are indicating: quality issues, additional risk. But long term, it's also more about satisfaction, work satisfaction, and a lower appreciation of the people they work with outsourced for their outsourced work, so the language professionals. And what is striking in the answers is that these side effects are coming not only from the linguists in these language department, where it would be logical, but also from managers, from project managers, and even from the outsourcing people, the buyers, basically. One big concern of all expressed by all language department participants is that they now need to defend the position of their unit much stronger than before within their organization to remain relevant. And with that, this section is finished. I'm now moving to the language service companies, which will be presented by Diego. Diego.
Coming up. Thank you very much, Uri.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, Let's start with the good news. Thank you for presenting the general overview, and thank you for Christos for spoiling some of the topics that they had identified for these slides. I identified 8 positive trends. So these slides cover the first 4. The most cited one, I would say, is that AI and automation are growing. Might seem counterintuitive, but the companies that are thriving in implementing AI are using it not as a replacement, but as a capability layer. So it's a growth factor. Whenever they are able to operationalize AI, and which means govern it, doing quality checks on it, and integrating it in the company, that's where they really thrive, and it's seen as a positive trend. Second one, which might be seen as the opposite, if you want, but it's complementary actually, is there's a shift from the response that we got to human quality. So it's a shift back to human quality, and many organizations that back in, I would say, 1-2 years ago, they rushed into replacing the linguists altogether. Sometimes we see, unfortunately, this is still happening, but they're really now discovering finally where AI falls short, and so they are returning to doing more post editing, more validation, and more consulting more the LSC, language service companies, on how to integrate AI in a good way. Let's say. Third trend is content is growing, as Crystal said also. So the volume of multilingual content keeps expanding. Different channels, different type of document. This is also seen as of course as a positive trend, but we need to consider that the content need to scale with quality in mind as well. There's a fourth one here in this slide, which is localization is getting more and more important. So the market is actually splitting from the responses that we got between commoditized content, and this part I would say keeps growing in volumes, of course. And on the other side, we have really high quality and culturally relevant content. So the companies that are able to position themselves as specialists in a given niche, they are seeing a positive trend in growth and in volumes that they're getting. So common trend for this slide is quality, specialization, and the combination of course, technology on one side and language expertise is seen as an enablement for growth. If you can move to the next slide. Thank you. A special note on interpreting, which is the fifth positive trend that we see in this slide. Interpreting demand is growing. So spoken language services, be it conference, community, legal, and everything around that, appear to be more resilient, as of now at least, to AI disruption compared to written translation. So we see from the responses that clients are valuing the professional judgment of human interpreters even more than before. Sixth, and this is 8% of the responses, general economic improvement. Some of the companies that have responded to the survey see in an optimistic way a macroeconomic upturn, which is a counterbalancing, if you want, the hype around AI. So when there's a general, let's say, economic growth, then multilingual communication, we know that usually can see growth as well. So this is another positive trend that we see. 5% of the respondents see market consolidation as a positive trend. There are companies that on one side that are really, really struggling to adapt to change and everything that we've been saying already. But for the companies that are able to stay in the market and to thrive in this market, there's an additional opportunity when competitors actually leave the market. And this, I would say, is something is in common probably also with the independent language professional, but this is not my topic. There's another positive trend, last one that I identified, is regulation and compliance. With the EU Act, data regulation and also client requirements becoming really strict around data privacy and so on. ISO certification is becoming more important, and companies with no certification are dropping, which might be tied to the number of respondents as well, and to the type of respondents, but also might indicate that there's a growing focus on regulation and compliance as well. I'm done with the positives. Before moving to the next slide, I can see that this as a confirmation for what Rudy and Christos have been saying. So the market is not probably disappearing, but it's changing. It's changing a lot. It's differentiating a lot. Now let's move to the negatives. Thank you so much. So that's of course the other part. Nothing new probably. It's been said already. The biggest one I would say 72% of respondents say that they fear AI and they fear translation and language services become too commoditized. So it's almost 3/4 of respondents that said that they fear that translation will be commoditized. So it's not just fear of automation, it's more really perception that the clients, any kind of clients, are considering translation something that can be done by a machine. So we see words such as replacement, existential change, and we are no longer needed, which is of course very worrying. Among language service companies, 30% also saw positive elements in AI. Among freelancers, only 10%. So the disruption is really something that is perceived by all levels of the conversation, as you said, Rudy, also by language service departments. So second, 16% of respondents said that they talked about client misunderstanding. So again, clients are considering language services something that can be commoditized, and they are deciding more on price than even before, and this is getting more and more serious, which is of course connected to the third negative trend, which is price pressure and declining rates. If the customers consider translation something that they can get for free, then of course pricing pressure is becoming more and more relevant. And there is no expectation that this will change in the next few months or years. So 40% of respondents within language service companies reported decreased investments also in the last year. Fourth, there's a great decline in demand, because of course many customers have they do translation in-house using AI. They build their own tools, which means that the outsourcing level is going down for them. And this is also from the conversations that I'm having, this confirms the trend of volumes going down. I promise I have only another slide for negative trends. Christos opened his speech today talking about the geopolitical and macroeconomic uncertainty, which has to do with the wars, of course, US tariffs. Every day, inflation is going up and prices are going up. But when export activity slows down, then it's when multilingual demand follows. And this is a bit in contrast with what I said in the first slide, but it reflects some of the respondents' fears that these geopolitical and macroeconomic uncertainty will affect language services as well. Because of technology, and this is a process that started some years ago already, there's a search for disintermediating and shortening the supply chain, which means that large LSPs, they are acquiring client directly. Small ones are trying to do that as well. Of course, it's not a change that is easy to do. And also some clients are going directly and buying services for with freelancers, which of course is a valid point, but also reflects the fear that LSPs are demonstrating with their replies in the survey. The last point is again about clients building their own tools and basically doing translation on a self-service based, which means that they are downsizing their departments, they are outsourcing less, and sometimes in more and more cases they make no use at all of outsourced services and professional providers. So these are the seven negative trends that are identified. But again, some companies are adaptive, they are specializing, investing in quality, and they are navigating better. But the industry is indeed transforming, and this is affecting the perception of the LSPs as well. With that, hopefully it was not too bad to hear, but that's the harsh reality. So hoping I'm not scaring you too much out of this conference, and I'm looking forward to answer any question in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. Now we'll move to the independent language professionals, the freelancers. John, over to you.
Thank you, Rudy. So this year we're taking a slightly different approach to the way we present the results of the survey. As Rudy said, a lot of the numbers and the charts and whatnot are in the report. So if you want that sort of thing, you can go find them in the report. We're looking more in today's presentation about the sentiments, the expectations. But we also really need to bear in mind, as Rudy said at the beginning, or as Christos said, that we have a small number of responses this year than before, and also quite limited geographical coverage in many countries. So the results are not valid right across all of Europe for all markets and so on. But one thing that is sort of pretty constant this year and in previous years with the independent professional results is that the responses are primarily from women, as Rudy said. Most of the members who respond are members of professional translation or interpreting associations, and most are very well established in the profession. So the shifts that we're seeing that have been described by Christos, by Rudy, by Diego, are shifts that are hitting the older, more established professionals, or at least that's the part of the market that the ELIS survey is capturing. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So, as everyone has said so far, the things are not great. There is, and it's hardly surprising, the sentiment is mostly negative in the freelance responses this year when we analyze them. So we continue to see a picture of precarity among the independent professionals. There's declines in the volume of work. Rates have stagnated. Inflation all around Europe is definitely not helping the situation. So what comes across very clearly this year is not the frustration or the anger that we were seeing in past versions of ELIS from the independent professionals, but more a sense of people feeling that they're being devalued, that they're underappreciated, that they're being pushed to the side. I think that's what comes across very, very strongly. And also there's this very strong feeling that machine translation and AI are not simply neutral tools. They're really strong drivers of this devaluation that's going on. But also coupled with this, there's a very, very strong awareness among the independent professionals that they're being expected to deliver quality outputs, as Rudy said, like almost human quality outputs for less money. And also that there is an expectation that they need to defend the work that they're doing. So there are liability and responsibility issues accompanied with this. And this does not sit well with the professionals. And I think it's very interesting that this question of the devaluation that we see emerging so strongly in the responses this year needs to be set against the theme that has been chosen for Translating Europe Forum this year, which is language professionals matter. It's quite clear that the market isn't telling independent professionals that they matter. And something needs to change in that. We saw, for example, in Diego's slide just now, that there is an increasing realization of the value of humans. Christos talked about it as well, but somehow that needs to filter down to the independent professionals as well. I'll come back to this point a bit later on. There also seems to be an increasing, I would probably call it annoyance, about the market asymmetries. So a lot of the people responding to the survey don't like that they can't really negotiate properly with their clients, especially with the really big players, the really large LSPs. And one of the side effects of this inability to negotiate is there's a lot of pressure around speed to handle volumes, but all for reduced work. So they don't have a control over their work, which ties again into this thing that they feel devalued. And this is a theme that recurs quite a lot over the years. The way in which the really large companies are treating the independent professionals, and there are possibly competition law issues here that need to be explored and looked into. We've mentioned this before in previous years, and it's probably something we need to be considering more seriously. And of course, all these factors that I've been talking about now, they lead into this feeling that translation is no longer a stable career for many, which is why what Rudy was saying, there are people who are considering leaving the profession. The figure this year is slightly smaller than last year, but it's still around 1/5 of the respondents are saying that they're thinking of leaving. They're considering it, which cannot be good for the market. And associated with this as well is also this feeling of burnout, of pessimism about the future, about concern whether the profession is sustainable. And especially for young people coming into the market, this question about the long-term sustainability of the profession should be raising lots and lots of question marks. Can we move on to the next slide, please, Rudy? But not everything is negative in the data. This is what you expect when you have a large data set, that there will be different viewpoints and different voices in there. One of the things that's quite clear in the pragmatic, more neutral responses that we see in the responses from the independent professionals is that they're very attuned to this idea that change is necessary, that they need to adapt. For example, there are very large numbers of people who are doing lots of CPD every year. They're learning, and they're learning skills which are focused around technology, around AI. So the change that Christos was talking about earlier is definitely happening. Independent professionals are definitely changing their skill set, learning, trying to adapt. And of course, the negativity that we saw on the previous slide is not the whole picture. There are lots of people out there who are taking the stance, okay, well, this technology is here. I need to work with it. I need to pay my bills. It's not the best type of work. It's not the most enjoyable type of work, but I will do it. A more neutral position as well that we see a lot in the data is that, okay, there's more fluctuation than there ever was. There's more uncertainty, but we will try and adapt some way to that. In fact, we've known now for quite a few years that this sense of flux, this sense of change is pretty constant in the industry for independent professionals. And now we're really seeing people, talking about, okay, well, I need to try and maybe find different types of clients. I need to develop new specializations. I need to work in new sectors. All these sorts of things are coming out very strongly this year. Something that's also very strong this year as well in the survey response, I think it was Rudy who mentioned this, is this desire to work with direct clients. And what we see in the responses from the people who do actually work with direct clients is that they feel more upbeat about what they're doing. It's what you might say is like the exact opposite of this feeling of being devalued. They feel appreciated because they work with clients who understand quality, they understand communication strategies. They appreciate that independent professionals appreciate the fact that translation is viewed by these people as a process of co-creating meaning, of co-creating value. So there is this side to the market as well. It's not all doom and gloom. Another factor I would say that also helps respondents feel more at ease with the situation as it's evolving and the market in the way it's evolving is when they work in niche specializations, because it's in those specializations and in those niche areas where they're able to feel that their expertise as humans is really, really valued and appreciated. A key factor that also emerges is that independent professionals really value having a sense of control over their own workflow rather than having technology, tools, work processes dictated to them. And I think this ties back quite strongly from the responses to the very large language service companies, which force technology choices, tools, and processes on people. And the freelancers or the independent professionals really do not like this. There is a lot of fear or concern around AI and where it's taking the profession or taking the industry, but there's also some, you might say positive regard for AI in there, but this is among people who see AI as a tool that they're deliberately choosing to use. They have control over. They opt when to use it, when not to use it, so they feel more in control. So these sentiments of control, appreciation are very, very strong in the survey responses as well. I think they've always been there in the last couple of years, but they're coming out quite strongly this year. Can we move to the next? And of course, it's the independent professional results are not just suggesting that these are the problems and these are the challenges. There's also a lot of information in there about what could be done to make things better. And so the responses surface various strategies that could help adapt to this situation that we're seeing around us. And I've presented this, or I've analyzed it in 3 different categories, and I'm actually going to change the order a little bit here. I'm going to talk about like the actions seen from the side of independent professionals, then on to professional associations, and then leave the translation agencies or the LSPs right to the end. So the key messages here seem to be in terms of like what could be done, or you could think of it as like a corrective action or advice from the respondents to others in the market, is focus more on finding direct clients. But there's also a realization that there's likely to be more competition. If everyone is trying to find direct clients, and there will be independent professionals in competition with others for clients. But there's also an awareness that language service companies are probably targeting the same clients as well. But this seems to be something that's being promoted in the responses. Also, the idea of specialization surfaces here again, because when you specialize, you're able to achieve better rates. Then there's also this idea of diversification, and we see it in 2 different ways in the survey. So it's either diversification in the sense that Christos was talking about it earlier on with add-on services, for example, more editing, not just post-editing, but editing, revision, transcreation, all these diverse language-related activities. But it could also be adding in extra income streams, like taking on a different job, which is a practical realization, which ties in again to the pragmatic approach, that, okay, this is the way the market currently is. I will find something else to do temporarily. The general feeling is that they want to do this temporarily, and then they can come back to the translation or interpreting when the market corrects, if it corrects. There's also a suggestion that we need to learn, as independent professionals, learn how to master AI so that we can use it where it makes sense. Not that it fits everywhere, but it has certain uses, and the idea is to become aware of where it can be used and when it can't be used. Again, the idea here is the independent professional being in control. And another very strong theme is join a professional association or contribute to being in the professional association, which brings us to the next category, which is the role of professional associations in all of this. There are certain themes that emerge from the open-ended responses about what stuff for professional associations could be doing to assist in this situation that has emerged. So the idea of associations being more active in the defense of the role of professionals, of talking about minimum standards of pay and the conditions of work, calling out drops in rates and the undercutting of the market and bad practices in general. Also, the idea of pushing back against exaggerated claims about what machine translation and AI can actually do and when it's useful, when it's not useful. I think they've been doing this quite a lot over the last couple of years, but there's a sort of, you might say, a demand for it from the respondents to the survey. And also that the associations have a more visible presence and speak more openly to the other partners in the sector. Again, I think this is happening, but it could probably be improved. And then turning to the last category here, which is the language service companies or the translation agencies. Unsurprisingly, independent professionals have quite some few ideas about how that side or that sector of the industry could improve things for translators. And I would say that quite a lot of the responses are directed towards the really, really large companies. Of course, we know, I'm not sure if Rudy said it, but we know from the report and from previous years as well, that those really, really large companies do not really engage with ELIS. They don't participate. So in a way, the responses from the freelancers or the independent professionals here, which are directed towards those really large companies, are like shouting like a voice in the wilderness because they're not here to listen to what is being said. But nevertheless, these views are being conveyed. One of the key things I think that comes out, which ties into this sense of undervaluation or devaluation of the professionals, is that the respondents to the survey want themselves not to be seen as disposable assets or resources, but they want real relationships to be nourished. And I think Diego was also pointing to this as well in his section. Again, this question of fair pay, fair rates that reflects the effort that goes into the work that we do, especially in relation to post-editing, that it requires a lot of effort, and the quality expectations that Rudy was talking about, but are not necessarily remunerated in the way that they should be. And another key theme that emerges is to focus on professional judgment and to allow the professionals to exercise their professional judgment. So again, that ties back into this question of devaluation of the professional. So I think none of this is new that we're hearing or what we're seeing in the survey this year. We've been seeing these themes emerge now over quite a couple of years, but it's good to put out a repeated call about these things. And maybe now that the theme of Translating Europe Forum this year is that language professionals matter, that all sides involved in this conversation should actually start listening to this, and we should start sitting down together and figuring out ways to make sure that the professionals feel appreciated and valued and that they really do matter. And with that, I'll end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. The final segment is the university staff and students. Alexandra, floor is yours.
Thank you, Rudy. This is the last section. It's the upstream training to all the professional life we have talked about. And this time I focus more on the open questions and again on trends and moods and not on statistical values. And I'm comparing the trainers with the students' reactions. And we see that trainers have general better mood than 1 year ago towards AI. They consider AI a productive way of integrating technology into workflows. And as you see, the understanding of AI is now better. They also acknowledge evolving professional roles, and the hope, so to say, is that the human expertise should be recognized. So there is a shift from exaggerated expectations about AI towards a more balanced, realistic, and ethical understanding of capabilities and limitations of AI. And the perception, or we may say hope, is that human translators are increasingly valued for expertise, specialization, and quality assurance, like we have heard before. And students, respondents have similar perception, even if they consider them from a slightly different angle, though they say that globalization makes new opportunities, that emerging technology and social changes although give new opportunities. They are very realistic about AI. They consider that the translation sector is expanding, as we have heard in the European Commission. We had an increase of 9% of translations, so that means that they are right, and that the global movement will be towards more demand or a higher demand of translation. So the positive message seems to be that AI is reshaping, but not eliminating language professions, partly thanks to a stronger quality awareness. So the next slide, please. Obviously, there is also, let's say, the other side of the coin, the negative trends. Trainers perceive that customers or clients in the market have an over-reliance on AI, and that AI is adopted in an irresponsible way. There is a technological overconfidence, not only in translation, but in any sector. The market-driven devaluation we have talked about is also a detail or an aspect that trainers perceive clearly. And there is a erosion of professional identity and the educational pipeline collapse. So in the trainers trend, the negative trends are highly concentrated around AI-related disruption and structural pressures on the profession. But the core anxiety is not that AI exists like it was maybe the years before, but that AI is being adopted without sufficient regulation, literacy, or appreciation for the complexity of language. And in general, a reinforcement of translation as a commodity rather than a profession is perceived. Students have similar fears or similar perceptions. They see an unconditional trust in AI by non-experts. They fear being replaced by machines, falling salaries and precarity. We have talked about it. Professional devaluation, general economic situation and price pressure, the declining quality of standards, and a general political and economic instability is also perceived by students. So the widespread belief that translation is obsolete and that the machines are good enough leads to a decline in student enrollments in translation programs. And we see that T&I departments suddenly have to justify their existence. But ultimately, all this leads to future talent shortages, and we have to be aware of this fact. If trainers' concerns about AI are mainly structural and regulatory, students' negative outlook is dominated more by AI-related existential and economic anxiety. And compared to the positive trends where AI maturity and regulation are seen as hopeful developments, the negative trends highlight a transition phase marked by instability, a mismatch between technological capacities or capability and social understanding, and a short-term disruption that may undermine long-term sustainability. The next slide, please, Rudi. We asked students to rank different options as preferred, considered or not an option, professional options. And we saw that the preferred position, it's on the right side of this slide, are, as Rudi just mentioned, language company, language positions, non-language company, but still language positions, public administration, language position, Some of them take on the challenge of becoming or want to become freelance language professionals or even dare create their own companies. And then we asked them for the reasons for choosing the program, and clustering those reasons, we found that the passion for languages, the passion for translation, the cultural commitment, and the awareness of the social role of translation are still there. That means that students predominantly rely on identity-driven motivation, like passion and cultural commitment, rather than on economic security and as a justification for the study course choice. In other words, their decision is guided more by emotion than by market logic. However, they don't lack pragmatic reasoning, as they also mention job diversification, hybrid careers. As we said, even some translators tend to give up and have another career. The same is true for hybrid careers, and academic mobility. Students' passions for languages and translation is not blind, but often strategically framed. And now we come to the last slide, please. So what we academics always ask ourselves is how to help students on the way into the profession. And there we had a sort of open question. I called it the wish list, the students' wish list. And you see that's under bracket because we offer all these options, all these possibilities, but they would like to have more industry-related content, more guest lectures and practitioner contact, more freelance and entrepreneurship training, more AI and technological updates, more communication about events and association. So the previous data set on the career motivation, their students showed strong passion and optimism. But in this data set, their tone becomes much more pragmatic and future-oriented. Students would like to have all this training, and students seem to be highly motivated, but they still feel unprepared to the professional entry. And obviously, we academics, we always think that internships could be a good help for the entry into the professional life. And there, the students, we asked them about how they feel about internships, if they perceive them as positive or negative, if it was easy to find them, and so on. And internships are considered a high value, but availability is still a problem. And the quality of available placement is generally good, but only of the available ones. And there the students are really happy with what they had as internships. These aspects of what we found out suggest, on one side, the need of curricular reforms fostering business preparation and technological literacy by external expertise and better network access. And even though the number of EM students who have already completed an internship was relatively small, there are some trends that confirm what we as trainers perceive in daily life, which are limited availability, timing issues within the program, and possible lack of awareness or access. But all these issues are currently being addressed by a joint EMT-linked internship initiative, and we hope that next year the results will be better for these aspects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. That actually concludes our presentation. Jeffrey, do you take over, or do I pass on directly to Marta?
Well, I'm going to take over a little bit. Before I ask Marta to make a short intervention, I'm going to pose one or two questions to you and the key panel. Here's one that's anonymous. Lots of interesting mentions of AI and MT and AI linked together. This anonymous questioner wants to know, is there a difference to be seen here, or are the results separated? Are you just lumping AI and MT together?
Yes, we are. Yes,
okay.
we are. For the simple reason that the predominant use of AI today, according to all the respondents, is to replace dedicated MT. So where in the past people were using statistical MT or neural MT, this is now largely replaced by LLMs. Even the biggest MT dedicated MT provider around, which is DeepL in Germany, has completely moved to, or almost completely moved to LLMs these days. So it is. We don't want to make the distinction anymore. It's AI. Everything what's reflecting and disrupting today is the use of AI as MT.
Okay, that's
The
perfect.
Yeah.
And as Rudy has said fairly frequently, you can download the report and the slide deck, and you can dig into some of these detailed questions. I've got a detailed question maybe for John here. Any info about the share of translators who still feel upbeat, i.e. those who work for direct clients? Is there some statistical fodder there for Magali to find in the slides and the report?
I'd say it's between 10 and 20%.
Okay.
It's not like a massive trend that's in there, but it is in the data.
Okay. Well, that answers his other question. The other question is, are they in a minority or majority? It sounds
Minority, yeah.
still a minority.
No, because
Okay.
the overwhelming sentiment and is the negative stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I'm going to just ask Marta to just make a quick intervention before we introduce our panel. And just fair warning, panelists, I'm going to go around, ask you to introduce yourselves and give a 30-second response and reaction to what you've heard so far. So over to you, Marta.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of UATC, I would like to thank you all for being here today. First of all, thank you to Christos and to the team at European Commission DGT, to all the partners who make ELIS possible, and also to Rudy for this amazing work in bringing this edition of ELIS together. This is truly a collective effort, and that's exactly what gives it its strengths. After hearing the findings, I would like to take a step back for a moment, because in a time of noise, speed, and constant disruption, one thing becomes extraordinarily valuable, a place where the industry can look at itself clearly. That is what ELIS has been. For years, ELIS has offered, well, for 14 years, ELIS has offered something rare in our sector, a shared and biased view across the language industry. It brings together companies, freelancers, academia, institutions, not to defend positions, but to help all of us better understand the reality we collectively face. And that matters, because no single part of our ecosystem sees the full picture on its own, but together we begin to see the bigger picture and find common ground. That is the real strength of ELIS. It's not only a survey, it's not only a report, it's a form of industry memory, a way of tracking change over time and turning individual experience into collective intelligence. But we are also honest with ourselves. We are all working very hard. We are all adapting. And most times we even feel a bit lost in the middle of so much change, because ours is an industry in transformation. Technology, AI, new workflows, new expectations, everything is evolving, sometimes faster than we can fully process. And in moments like this, we need two things: evidence to stay grounded and courage to move forward. ELIS has given us the first. Now it's time to embrace the second. Because if the industry is changing, ELIS also must evolve, not only by breaking what works, but by resinging it together, by being open, by being bold, by being brave enough to ask different questions. The challenge now is speed. How quickly can companies and freelancers and academia adapt while maintaining quality, sustainability, and value. And also how we can ensure that we are not only supporting the parts of the industry we already know, but also reaching to those that are still not fully engaging, younger professionals, larger players, and new tech-driven initiatives that are reshaping the landscape. You may call this, or we may call this, the beginning of ELIS 2.0, not as a conclusion, but as an invitation to all of us and to partners like the European Commission to reflect together on how we better observe, understand, and support this evolving multilingual ecosystem. Because we need to understand much more and much faster what different players are doing, which new skills are emerging, what new trends are taking shape, and where the industry is moving next. So because in the end, ELIS is not just about data, it's about becoming together and getting together as an industry to make sense of change, to be visible, to be understood, and to shape what comes out next together. So thank you. These were some words that we wanted to share with you of how we feel about ELIS and about being in the industry, because all of us, even being here in the panel and talking, we are just like all of you listening. We are looking for the answers and trying to do the right next thing. So thank you. 2 minutes. I've done
Thank you. Thank you very much. Stay on board, Marta, because I'm going to start with you because you're on the panel. A quick 30-second take on what you've heard so far, and then other panelists, you know who you are, turn on your cameras and your mics, and we're going to go a quick whiz through, and then we will deal with we've got loads of questions and comments which we need to get through. So starting with you, Marta, since you're online, what's your first reaction?
Oh, my first reaction, so many things. Clearly, I think some of the keywords are pressure, transition. We talk about an activity that is declining, price pressure, reduced investment, but at the same time, we listen to these words more targeted at the future of reshaping, doing things different. So I think we are living a time of decline, but declines also always bring us to a moment to change. So I think this is also about resilience and reconfiguration. And because of that, I believe that this data is important, because the key note that I want to share with you after listening to everything is that most of the times what I feel is that it's not so easy to get data from our national associations, from our peers in our countries. So maybe because of the fear of competition. And I think that we need this kind of data to make people feel more at ease to become part of something and to be willing to do different. So
okay, thank you very much. Alison, can I turn to you quickly for a quick
Sure.
reaction?
Sure. Really well done. And I like our new format this year where we listen to some of these positives and negatives. I think if we go way up to the high altitude, technology revolutions or crises, if you will, they all have a tempo. And if you look at history, they last 2 to 4 years, and it's painful and brutal, but it's done. And the survival of the fittest happens. And what I see is that there is a collective will and determination of many people in this industry and companies to adapt to the changes that everybody's talked about and come out on the other side through the recalibration and move from growth into profitability. And I like what Rudy said about TransPerfect. If you guys know the expression, the canary in the coal mine, or maybe the early warning system, to see that 50% or less than 50% is now language services. And, the rest of what they're doing are things like legal and data and AI consulting and other services. I think that's a good indication of which way this is going.
Thank you very much. can I ask Maria to introduce herself and have a quick 30-second sum up of what you've heard?
Sure. Thank you, Jeffrey. Name is Maria. I'm Vice President of Women in Localization. And frankly, as we all know, the localization industry is female dominated. And even the fact that the majority of our responses, the responses to the survey were women, it is clear that we are the most impacted in everything that is happening in our industry. Looking at the responses and kind of looking at the pros or the kind of the positive trends and so also the negative trends, it's clear that we need to redefine. And a lot of organizations have already started redefining the value of language professionals. Our, I guess, traditional conception no longer serves the purpose that we're all trying to bring to global businesses. And I think we have an opportunity collectively, all of the organizations represented here and beyond, to really redefine those roles, build the programs, the platforms that are going to help professionals who are already sort of mature and established in the industry to upskill and bring value in a different way, and also to continue to attract that new talent and prepare them for success in what is now a completely different language industry in terms of a skill set and kind of, as I said before, value to global businesses. But excellent insights for sure from a women in localization perspective. Obviously, we are very much trying to build that platform and that kind of connection or connective tissue as part of the community. And yeah, that's kind of my take on the results. Thank you.
Now, we have continued to have students as part of our panel commentating, and I hope they're not thinking of getting up and leaving before they start. So, who would like to go first of our two student representatives? Hannah, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So hi everyone, my name is Hanna-Mari and I'm studying in the Multilingual Translation Studies program at the University of Turku in Finland.
L'Université de Finlande. Alors, voilà ce que je pense de cette présentation. J'essaye de garder un état d'esprit optimiste et positif par rapport à tout ce qui a été dit. Donc, même si l'intelligence artificielle transforme la traduction, j'ai l'impression que
So it's just basically like changing the skills that translators need. So the future translator will be also a language expert who can also work with language technology, quality assurance, and understand cultural nuances, for example. So I try to see AI as part of the workflow, but not a replacement of the translators. And I believe that there are still jobs out there in the language industry, lots of career paths, but the career path just might look a little different from like the so-called traditional translation model. So just to sum it up, I would say that we might not be replaced by AI, but we might be replaced by a potential colleague who can use and utilize AI effectively.
Thank you very much. We have student interpreters giving us versions of what we're talking about in Spanish, German, and French and Italian. And I can't help but note that one of the growth areas that John, I think, John O'Shea pointed out, there's growth and optimism for the interpreting side of things. So our other student, I can't see who's jumping in next. Is it Sidi?
Sure, I can.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Just introduce yourself and give your reactions, particularly what you heard from Alexander Krause about the results from talking to academics and to students.
Yes.
Still optimistic? Still optimistic?
I mean, I think it is reassuring. Yes, also, by the way, yeah, I'm Siddhi and I am a student of Masters in Université Paris-Cité in France. That's me. And as for the results, I think they're really reassuring given that we still have scope Also, it is important to note that learning is perpetual, and as long as we keep learning new things and we try to incorporate as many skills as we can, I think we are far from being replaced. I think that is really good, and the insights were very much reassuring because we do, like as students, we do find ourselves in really, really sad times sometimes when we are not sure as to what we're doing anymore. But yes, it was really reassuring. Yeah, as for the program that I'm doing, we do incorporate a lot of things that help us develop holistic skills. So I'm glad.
Okay, well, look, let's jump in. Have I missed anyone out on the panel? Just scream at me if I have. But I'm going to just jump in.
Hello. Yes, I haven't.
Oh, hello. There you are. Sorry. Right. Introduce yourself and come back to a 30-second sum of what you've heard.
Sure. So I work for FCDO Services, which is part of the United Kingdom Foreign Office, and I'm representing the COTSOAS organisation today, of which the UK has the presidency currently. COTSOAS is an organisation which represents the interests of translation services in central government across Europe. And there are a few points that resonated with me in my role as a central government translator. First of which is the need that I think a lot of services are feeling of constantly having to justify their existence as a government department or as a service provider to other areas of government. That's something that I think it's fair to say that we feel in our team. The second is, I think that was highlighted well today, is the constant need for upskilling. In the civil service, at least, that's something that's taken very seriously. So that's something that we can be grateful for. And the third point that particularly chimed with me was that a problem that it seems like the industry is facing, but also I can identify within government, is that we're finding that we have aging teams and that succession planning is an increasing challenge. So it was really interesting to see how issues that are affecting the industrial side of translation can also be seen in the public sector.
Thank you very much indeed, Ian. I'm going to jump into one or two of the questions, and I'm going to bring in some of our main presenters as well. Krishna talks about our biggest issue is not scale or AI, it's retention. How do we make sure we have our linguists when we need them? Would it be an option to include survey questions that can show which factors can support retention? So I guess that's one about the survey. Maybe that's ELIS 2.0. But maybe John would like to jump in there and comment, because we are a symbiotic relationship between companies and freelance professionals. How do we make sure the freelance pool is there?
I wish I had an answer to that question. We can definitely think about including questions along those lines. We do need to radically revise the survey in its next iteration for sure. So it's good to have ideas about topics that we could be including, but I don't think I have answers to that question off the top of my head. We clearly see that people are struggling, they're not earning enough money, they're thinking about leaving, they're trying to develop other skills, they're taking on second jobs. But again, also the survey doesn't capture the entire market. There are obviously very, very successful translators out there. We don't know if they have responded or not responded. So we definitely need to get the figures back up as well to have a more comprehensive picture. The survey doesn't tell us everything that we need to know about the state of the market. We also need to bear that very much in mind. But also
Okay.
what we could be doing is like Fit Europe and EU ATC, we need to be talking, or and earlier we need to be talking more. We do this already inside the Lind group, but probably we could bring this to as a discussion point within the Lind group, and with Christos as well, and we think Elisa from the Commission, and discuss like what can we do. We have like all these highly qualified people who are feeling undervalued and not getting paid enough. How do we keep them? But then also, how do we keep space for the students who are coming into the market now long term? Because there's no point training thousands of students to go into a market when they're not going to be paid properly and they're not going to feel valued. We need to fix the structural issues in the market in order for everything to work properly.
Probably a
I
bigger
think
question that we can deal with right here,
yeah,
but certainly for something that you could take into Lind, EMT, and other channels to consider. My old friend Sue Lechin, we've been corresponding on the sidelines about, is there going to be interpreting, and bang, up came interpreting from John. So you got a big thumbs up from Sue, but she asked a question which maybe Diego and Marta might consider, and perhaps even Alison or anyone else who wants to jump in. To what extent is exit from the market really due to just AI disruption rather than poor entrepreneurship by well, everyone? There must be elements of both to greater or lesser extent, regardless of AI. Some colleagues are better entrepreneurs than other. Should we be in? I mean, this actually. Let me just. I'm going to bypass Marta and Diego and Alison. I'm going to ask Alexandra. Do you think we should be teaching students entrepreneurship when they're doing their degree courses? Is that something that's missing from the curriculum?
No, it depends on the program. There are some programs teaching really entrepreneurship, and we even cooperate with other faculties like economy and so on, because we have seen the need to teach them entrepreneurship anyhow. So I think the point is that it's more the younger generation who is taught now the entrepreneurship, while professionals who entered the market 10 or 15 years ago, they don't have those skills. And in the competence framework, we tackle those competences too. So, I mean, we are aware of this issue and we are trying hard to make it, enter any program, any translation program and interpreting program. But it's always a longer path to have them degree holders who really are capable of a good entrepreneurship. But we are teaching and we are aware of that. Academia is fully aware of that. So we are on a good way.
Okay. Anyone else want to jump in on that? Because actually the original question was aimed at freelancers, and maybe John wants to jump back. But
yeah. So I would say that for the last, I've been involved in ELIS since 2017 now, so almost 10 years. We have questions every single year asking the type of CPD that freelancers in independent professionals are engaging in. And consistently over the last decade, they have been doing training about sales, marketing, business, entrepreneurship. It's all in there. If you read the reports, the data is all there. It's not something that freelancers don't think about. They do it.
Although it's a little bit less this year than
Yeah,
before.
possibly, yes, a little bit, yes, but because there's a more focus on AI and technology this year
Yeah.
than previous years. But yes, it's always been there. So I don't think you can. We are seeing a massive technological shift. Christos was describing it as well. So we can't ignore that it's a possible cause of what's going on. But trying to put the blame onto the freelancers and saying that they're not good enough business people and that's why things are going horrendously wrong for them, I don't think we can say that either.
but I think
It's
this
a
Actually,
applies.
very, very complicated situation.
I think this
Right.
applies to companies as well.
Yeah, of course, yes.
more to companies than to freelancers even this year. Because we see that the freelancers are more active in pursuing new skills and so on than the companies. So I think that companies at this moment are more concerned about damage control. We saw that already last year. It's damage control to cost reductions, to downsizing, which are obviously measures that freelancers don't have. They cannot use that. But companies are focusing on that and less on the to restore their position at this moment. So the criticism, I would say, would go more to the companies than to the professionals.
Anyone else want to jump in on these things? Please do. Yeah, please come in.
Right. Yeah. This is one of the questions that really gets a little bit under my nerves in a good way, because it's either a freelancer or a company. We have to pay bills by the end of the month, either personal bills or company bills and salaries and people. And in my case, I also, as you know, I have other companies, and one of them that is a marketing and design communication company. And even though I have the skills, the people, marketeers, and even the process to merge and to bring my translation localization team to this new model is very hard, and it's not so fast as the market is changing. So we keep doing jobs at lower rates, less margin, so less money to pay the bills and to handle everything. But at the same time, I have to push people to do more so that they acquire these new skills. And I don't think it's about entrepreneurship. I think it's really hard because this is it's not like with accountants and lawyers that they are sitting there for 3 or 5 years listening that, oh, change will come, but it hasn't yet. And in our case was like, punch, there we go. So I think we need to help more each other. I think there is something very useful that we are not doing, that I know companies that are doing different things and bringing companies and freelancers adapting to new skills and new services, but people are kind of keeping this a little bit secret because they are afraid to share with others. That, I don't know, maybe they are afraid that someone will steal from them that idea, which is crazy, because if we go more open into this, maybe we could learn from each other. And because we are not so many in the industry worldwide and even national-wide. So I think that's why we need to rethink how we address these problems and maybe ask different questions. But this is Marta speaking, not UATC, just to be clear.
It could all come into...
May I jump in? Sorry, just to say
Diego.
that I fully agree with Marta. I think at many different levels, we are not talking too much about the things. We are not, LSCs are not talking with companies in the right way. We're not talking enough with freelancers. We are not talking about within ourselves on our layer, let's say. So this is a big problem, and everybody's keeping their secrets, and this is doing no good to any of us. And I see many companies working on the same thing, spending the same money multiplied by the X number of companies, while we could sit together at a table, develop one thing, and go to customers together. I mean, this can be fixed beyond complaining about what's happening, because this is happening. It's a concern, it's a problem, but cooperation can be fixed. And I'm glad that within the Commission, for instance, LIND and academia, we are cooperating with the MT. We need cooperation all around at different levels, otherwise it will be harder and harder. Grazie, Marta.
Okay, thank you. Alison, I don't know whether you have any comments, and whether you see any themes coming up in your conference, which is happening. You might as well give it a quick plug while you've got our attention.
Sure. Next month.
In Berlin.
Next month in Berlin, April 12th through 14th. Sue, as I recall, Sue's a specialist, does legal translation. I think what Diego pointed out, and I think what John pointed out, is that specialization is an advantage right now. And so perhaps your view on things could be a little bit different, Sue. Not sure. I would say that I want to just echo what Marta and Diego are saying. There's always been this notion of co-opetition, which is, a portmanteau of cooperation and competition. And that's what a lot of us associations like to see and like to foster. And to the extent that we can do more of that, I think this industry is facing a bit of an identity crisis as it goes through this calibration. Nobody's quite sure what to call it anymore. Translation has become kind of a deprecated word because the skills that people are asking for are more than translation, but you want to bring those skills to these new ways of working and these new services that you're providing. So it's a foundational skill, but then there's all these new things coming in. And to the extent that associations can support people who want to learn those skills, practice those skills, share what's worked, what's failed, case studies, other examples, I think that's where the value of the associations and our events that we do can be really useful.
Thank you for that. Let's just go to, I'm just looking at some of the Q&As and comments. Here's one. My American colleagues say that we in Europe overestimate the importance of internship in our industry. I don't agree. Do you? Do you, Inka Lisa? Where are you, Inka Lisa? This is one, I know
I am
you're...
here. I am here. I'm actually raising my hand.
Oh,
Yes, hello. And I missed a little bit of your question. I wanted to comment a little bit on the previous ones, but if you may, and then remind me what you
okay.
wanted me to comment in particular. So thank you so much. I am from DG Translation. Very happy to be here. As previous years, this is a great service for the European language industry. What I really enjoy this year is, of course, our students who are participating, the next generation, and like people said in the comments, so they are listening us, and I think there has been a lot of valuable comments and advice to them. And DG Translation, of course, we have mentioned the things where we work a lot in. It's about traineeships. Also a new thing, training the trainers. So linking the university, for example, the EMT network and companies and also public service, like Ian was representing. So this is really the things that we believe will help the industry as a whole. I saw there was a question in the comments about whether it is important to have traineeships. I certainly believe that it is. I hope our student panelists, Sidhi and Hannah Marie, agree on that, and you won't be telling me that traineeships are not important during your studies. I absolutely believe in them, but I really wanted to thank everybody for the valuable insights and really providing all this information in a very challenging situation. And I think some commenters are right that we need to react all the time. It is maybe not enough to do this on a yearly basis, but we need to discuss afterwards. But remind me, dear Jeffrey, what did you originally want to hear from you?
Brilliantly, you covered it because
Good.
I've got an email address and I think I recognize it, but in case I'm wrong, he talks about the American colleagues say that we in Europe overestimate the importance of internships in our industry. And I said, and then it says, I don't agree. Do you, Inka Lisa? And I added the word Inka Lisa in there
Yes,
because I know that's one of your passions.
I know. And let's not, I'm sure there will be comments. Alexandra wants to comment as well, but do not close the session before I get to thank our lovely students. I will do that at the end, so it will come.
And just going back to the entrepreneurship, our youth ambassador, Juanco, are you there? You can turn on your camera and make your intervention now if you wish. Where are you? Are you still online? Well, anyway, Juanco says in Spanish universities, only a few cover entrepreneurship. Fortunately, VIU, where I lecture, has been covered from the very beginning. It's essential, and I'm sure, in fact, that most of our students are here today listening. Well, you've heard it from the boss. So these things are really important. Okay, now I'd like to go back to our two students because you've been sitting there listening. Are you feeling upbeat about the future? Is Gen Z got a future in the language industry? Sergi, let's start with you first.
Okay. Yeah, so I think, yes, we are very much capable, I guess, of being in the industry and not being replaced. We hope to do a good job.
But are you feeling slightly overawed by all this talk of change and the ground shifting under your feet before we've even got into the marketplace?
Yes, yes, certain things were a little concerning, but at the same time, I am very much aware of all the positive sides as well. So I like to see that. Not that I'm delusional, but I would like to focus on what is positive and what I can improve on, and what we can do as language specialists in
Perfect.
general. Yeah.
And Hannah Marie, are you downhearted? Or are you upbeat?
I am very much upbeat, yes. So even though obviously the field is changing and well, the world, everything is changing at the moment, but like I said earlier, that I believe that there still are opportunities and jobs out there for translators and language specialists, despite everything. So even if it's not the traditional sense of translation model, but I still believe that like language experts and language skills, they're always needed in any given field. And there are also other language opportunities out there, different kinds of careers, for example, in marketing or teaching, communication, content creation, working in different organizations, project management, any kind of expertise level jobs, and the list just goes on. So I would like to like to believe that this is not the end of the line for translators and language experts.
Okay, and then this is a kind of for everyone to consider. Herman Covey, who is from the Austrian member in AATC, what could we, as the industry, do in order to be more present in shaping the narrative of what language intelligence is really capable of and what it's not capable of, and why it makes sense to talk to industry specialists about how to use it most effectively? Now, I know actually, I don't know whether Raisa is on the line because you are talking with your ATC hat on to vertical markets. What's your take on that? Let's start with you if you are able to jump in.
Hi everyone, Raisa McNabb, EU ATC General Secretary and ATC CEO in the UK. Yes, I think the one key element for all of us in this discussion is to continue to keep the channels of communication open to client sectors, because of course we know that not just the AI transformation, but also all of the wider geopolitical, economic, you name it, challenges that impact our clients also filters straight through to us. So the better we understand the client landscape and what's happening within our client sectors, the easier it will be for us also to navigate these turbulent waters.
Okay. Maria, would you like to comment as well on that? Because you have a
I
particular insight.
wholeheartedly agree with Raisa, and I myself I guess my paid job is on the buyer side, on the global enterprise side, and I think it's key that we build those bridges, that we as global businesses are also informing what the organizations like Gala, UATC, ATC, how we enable the industry, and certainly the skill sets that we see are required for language teams, localization teams, in global businesses, and sort of inform or support build the academic curricula and the programs that will actually ensure the future language professionals are employable and are successful and have thrive effectively. So I just I was vehemently nodding because I think there continues to be kind of a big disconnect, and fortunately, there are certain forums, like even special interest groups and things like that try to bridge that. But I'd love to see more of a kind of a platformized connection where we can really outline these are the skill sets that we need. When I look to hire somebody, this is what I'm looking for. And I think Diego wants to jump in. I see his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to jump in. I agree with Reza and what you just said, Maria. I think that we still we have some issues that we need to tackle as well. I think the conversations many times is within ourselves. We might be talking with customers, but we talk with the customers in the localization department. So it's still a discussion that we're having within ourselves, and this doesn't help. And we need to show up where other people are. So not only industry events or industry close conversation. And then I think that we also did some bad to ourselves by not being honest about the limitations of AI. I see many companies saying that AI has solved the language problem, which of course is not. And we need to be honest about that, because I still see different, announcements of companies that we've solved the language issue. It's done. Let's move on. This is not true. It's a orchestration problem. It bears many other challenges that we need to be very transparent about. Otherwise, we are doing ourselves harm. And I think we did our part in that as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Diego. I've got one, I think it was Christos who talked about regulation in AI. There is a comment about do you see any movement towards regulating AI-only translation in high-risk domains such as medical, legal, or financial? Legal. John O'Shea, do you think there should be regulation to control the use of AI? Are you going to be ever replaced by an AI bot? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Would like to hope not. Because if I understood Diego correctly, it's not the language issue is not solved. These technologies are still deeply problematic, especially for legal. Of course, it depends to a very large extent on the language combinations. But even like in the major language combinations, they're still making lots of mistakes, and so people still need to be fixing them. I'm not quite sure how we get to the position of them being regulated, whether these systems would be considered high-risk AI systems under the AI Act, but maybe we need to explore that. I don't think it's being properly explored as a theme yet or as a topic. But there's also it's also very, very vital as well, even if we don't get to that stage of regulation, that we need to frame all this discussion as a matter of risk management. We were talking earlier with Raisa about this, using tools in these ways, especially if you use them like as a raw output in a setting like medical, legal, financial, is extremely risky, and clients need to be made to understand that. So
you only need one disaster to say,
exactly,
why didn't we do something about this?
Exactly. And the problem, I think a large part of the problem, like I've been trying to solve this problem in the academic research that I do, that the papers I write, like collecting examples of how things go wrong when you don't have a diligent translation process in place, when you use like a free tool, or you use raw output, or you have a quick and fast approach, and you don't have a real expert handling the texts who would know and who could avoid the problem for you. But the real problem what I'm trying to say is that we need many more examples. So we need to have like some sort of like centralized database of this. Perhaps we also need like some sort of like label saying, that the output is a professionally verified translation and you can rely on it, because then that activates all these thinking around like liability and responsibility and accountability for the work that we do. We put our name and our reputation behind the work that we put out there in the world. So those sorts of tools could also possibly be employed to try and fix this problem, if that makes any sense.
Okay, listen, guys, we still have over 200 people online. We were meant to have finished this TEW about half an hour ago, but why stop a good party when it's in full swing? I am going to ask Inka Lisa, because in the background we have had some fabulous interpreters toiling away. Interpreters, if you're listening to this and translate and interpreting turn on your cameras, because we'd like to name check you all and thank you for everything you've been doing. Inka Lisa, would you like to name check our fantastic team of interpreters?
Yes, indeed. I will do that. And I will also thank you for the incredible patience. We got enthusiastic and we went a little bit over time and had a very good discussion. So in the Spanish booth, we have from Barcelona, we have Anabel Perez Real. I cannot see you, but you are there, I know. And then from Valencia, we have Lucia Florencia Acosta. Thank you so much for the Spanish booth. From Vienna, we have Jessica Uster and Saskia Schwartz. Congratulations. Then from Louvain, from the Catholic University, Camille Broskin and Manon Timal. And last but not least, from Rome, we have Alessandro Di Lorio and Emanuela Laspia. So thank you so much, everybody, and you did great.
Okay, just a couple of other housekeeping announcements before I go. I mentioned the Gala conference in Berlin. Alison, just tell them the website address if they want to log on and come
Sure.
and see you.
It's gala-global.org, and it's called the World Ready Conference.
Okay, and you can catch up with Rudy at the VVIN stroke EUATC conference taking place in Den Bosch, 28th to 29th of May. The website address is vvin.nl/language-conference 2026 /. He's going to give a refined, even more in-depth presentation and be part of a discussion for our collaboration with our Dutch partners in a fabulous medieval city of Den Bosch. So we'll see you there. Marta, you're still there. I hope you've been tanking up on black coffee during thing. I'd like you to say goodbye to everyone on behalf of the EUATC. A sign off and thank you. Are you listening, Marta? No.
Sorry.
You can just say goodbye to everyone.
Goodbye. I'm sorry, but my voice is not working so well. Thank you for everything, Jeffrey.
Okay.
And team. We'll have more opportunities to discuss more
Okay.
ideas soon.
Okay. We either catch up next year or sooner than that.
Sooner than later.
Sooner than that, we've got Global Languages Services Industry in Den Bosch, 28th and 29th. But before that, we have Gala up in Berlin. So thank you everyone for tuning in.
One small thing.
Yes.
Just to mention that the report and the presentation will be on the ELIS website probably within an hour or something like that.
Okay. And it's also, you will also be able to get to it via the Commission's own KTCI platform. There'll be a link to the ELIS site and the recording as well.
KCTI, just a little. It's getting late. I know. We'll go for beer soon. So KCTI. Thank you.
We're all going for a virtual beer. And don't forget, I've responded to lots of people who've asked for certificates. You will get them in the next day or two. So we'll send out a message to the global list of attendees, just reminding them the email address to send their requests to. But for now, and from ELIS 2026, thank you for attending, and good night to everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Bye for now.